I feel so free. I feel so free. I feel so free. I feel so free.
Hey, welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at building an ambient style lo-fi track in the Reason DAW. So for this track, I decided to create a very simple lo-fi pad sound using Reason's Europa synth. I chose the square ramp waveform for oscillator 1, and the shape here is set to around 57.8 here. And then I set the unison count here to 4, the blend at 94%, and the detune at 53%, and the spread at almost 85% here. So that's all I have on in this section here. We just have the one oscillator on, and that is being fed to this filter here, and currently it's set to a low pass ladder, 24 dBs, and the frequency is starting at 1.66 kilohertz. So the amp envelope, I have the attack at 5 milliseconds, the amp decay is at 5 seconds, the release is maxed out at 100%, or should say the sustain is maxed out at 100%, and the release is 387 milliseconds. So next up I have envelope 1 with this pattern here. I started with a preset, which was this preset right here, and then I just pulled this down to modify it slightly. I have it set to loop, and I have beat sync on at 3/4 here. So that envelope here is being fed to the filter frequency, and just a small amount, just to give a little bit of movement to the pad. Down here I have some chorus, so the chorus is here, and I also have some distortion, which is on just at a low level. And the master volume is at 7.3 dBs currently. So that is the lo-fi pad. Now within the lo-fi pad here we have some effects. If I switch them off, just bypass them and play the pad, you can hear how it sounds on its own. So I'll just turn on the distortion here, and this is the Waves Berserk distortion. It's quite an extensive distortion. It has quite a few settings in it, and I have it set with quite a low amount of drive and also quite a low mix value right here. And that sounds like this. So just a little warm fuzziness added to the sound. Next up, I have this Infinity EQ here, and basically I have cut off most of the low frequencies up to about 100 Hertz. I have a small bump here at just over 4K, and then I've pulled the top frequencies down to just over 16K here. So I'll switch that on. And you can see it's cutting off these lower ones here because I don't want them to clash with the lower frequency bass sounds here. So that is our pad. And then I have a filter here. I'm just going to switch it on because right now it's not doing anything. And this is the kilohertz filter. I have a low pass on here, and what I'm going to be doing later is controlling the cutoff frequency in the arrangement. So that is our pad sound. So within the pad sound, I'm using a couple different chords. I'll just solo this and open up the sequencer piano roll here, and I'll just play these chords for you. So they just repeat the same pattern. So this is an 8-bar loop, and it's just repeating this 4-bar loop here. So the first chord is made up of a C, an E flat, a B flat, a D, and a G. So that is a C minor with an added 7th and a 9th, but the 5th, the G, I've moved up an octave here. And then just to connect it with a little movement, I've added this A here. And if you notice down at the bottom here, I have a pitch bend automation, and we're just bending down slightly, minus 25% if we click on the dot here. So the second chord here is an inversion of a G major. We're starting with the root on the 5th, and then we have the G, and we have the B, and then we have a E, and then a G an octave up. The C is the 6th, and I want these Gs, this is why I moved this G here up to this position so it would match the G in this chord here and give me a higher pitched drone as the chords progressed, with these notes just to tie them together. So this is an A here, and then we have a B here. So that is our lo-fi pad sound and our chords. Next up, I have the bass, and the bass is basically just playing 2 legato notes, and I'll just double click here and show you. We have a C note and an E note here to follow the 2 chords. So that's the 2 notes I've used on the bass parts, the C and the E. And if we go to the rack and close the lo-fi pad, we can look at the bass here, and I've used a patch in the Complex 1 Reason synth called Major Bass. I've just renamed it and saved it because I did change the sustain. I lowered a little bit, and the release time I also lowered because the bass was hanging on a little too long at the end of the chords, so I've reduced that a little bit there. So if I go back to the track here and just solo these two and play them together. So that's the core riff that I started with to build this track. The bass itself, aside from the complex one, we have a osmium distortion matrix, which is just doing a little saturation and some EQ, just to taste here, and some bit crushing, just to give it a lower fi kind of a sound. If I bypass these effects and play the bass on its own, you'll hear what I mean. So it's not quite as distinct, and it has a certain percussive element to it. But if I add the distortion and play it here, you can hear it beefs it up a certain amount. And then this channel EQ here is just low passing at 523 Hertz, and I'm just cutting out most of the top end of this bass, leaving some of the mids, just getting rid of some of that percussive element. So I'll switch this on and you can hear it. And then the compressor here is actually side chained to this kick 3 over here, and this kick 3 is duplicating my kick drum part from the Kong drum machine up here. If I press tab and go behind the rack, you can see the parallel outs from the kick 3 are going into the side chain on this Dynamics device here. So I just have the compressor on and it's set up to do a little side chaining. So if I go back to the track here and also activate the kick 3 here, so you can hear there that the compressor is ducking the bass sound on each of the kicks. So that is our bass and our keyboard sounds there. I wanted to have a kind of a sparse rhythm on this track, so I've loaded this down tempo kit, which is part of the Kong presets. On here I have a gain tool, just so I can vary the gain if I need to. I also have this Audiomatic, which is adding a little bit of depth to the bottom of the sound, to the low end, set to about 39% here. The dry wet is fairly low, and if I bypass that and play these drums on their own, and then I'll switch it on. So a little bit more lo-fi sounding for the drums there. So that is our down-tempo drum beat, and that works together with the kick 3 here. And I'm just using the kick 3 to reinforce the kick in this drum kit here. So in my initial idea, I have this pluck here, and I also have a couple of melody lines done on piano at the moment, and also on this Vital synth here, which I have. This progressive pluck here is just kind of an arpeggio following the chords, and it sounds like this. So if I go to the rack here and take a look at that, we're using a polytone synth here. And in the synth, I've just adjusted the amp envelope to reduce the decay and sustain a little bit, and the release on both patches here, just to shorten the length of each note to fit in with the timing of the song. I haven't done anything else to this aside from moved this pitch up to from -12 to 0. And in the effects here, I have this Ripley. I'll just bypass it. I have a reverb 7000, compressor, and also a gain tool. So I can just switch the gain off here and play that again. So as you can hear, there's still some echo, which is coming from the polytone effects here. Then if I add the Ripley, then the reverb, and the compression. And then I'm just using the gain tool to boost it up a little bit. So I'm using these B grand pianos right now with the NNXT, and I've got a scales and chords on each one. This one is set to C minor to filter notes, so I can only play the notes in the C minor scale. And then the other one, the scales and chords, is set to E minor and also filtering notes. So I have two separate parts here. This part here for the C minor, and this part here for the E minor. E minor being the relative minor of G major. So back in the rack, on this piano, I just have the gain tool on each one. If we go to the mixer, you can see I have the two pianos here, but I also have them bused to this piano lead bus, just so I can control both of them and add effects to both of them at the same time. So back in the rack here, the piano lead bus here, we have some osmium distortion, just some EQ to roll off some low end, some saturation, and compression on the mid and upper bands here. So I'll just bypass this, and I also have this Valhalla Supermassive, which is basically doing echo delays at the moment. So I'll just bypass that, and you can hear those. And then I'll turn this on. So that's how those sound at the moment. Let's go to our sequencer, and the last sound I have here is the Vital synth, and that is basically doubling these parts here on the piano, and I'll just solo that. And then together with the piano. It just adds a little bit more to the top end of that sound. So if we go into Vital and open it up here, you can see I've created what I've called a pluck lead ambient, and it's basically just a saw and then this square saw from Echo Soundworks free patches, and you can see the settings right here. I think I have some effects on here: chorus, compression, delay, and distortion. So you can see them right here. So it's a fairly straightforward patch. There's a little bit of movement on the filter from LFO1 here. So that's the pluck lead. So altogether, it sounds like this. So that's the basis of the track, and I'm just going to do some arranging now and turn our 8 bars into something a little more substantial. Now I am going to use some samples from Splice to fill things out. I'm going to grab some percussion and also some vocal parts. So let's add Splice Bridge and go and grab the samples. Okay, so I have Splice Companion open here and Reason next door to it. And just before I start doing the arrangement, I'm just going to grab the sounds that I think I want to use in the track. So I have this percussion wood block here, and I'm just going to copy that, drag it over to the track. Just going to rename that wood block. So I think I'm going to use this bongo pattern here. Okay. And I'm going to use this shaker here. Just drag that over, and it should be in time. Perfect. So I'm also going to use this vocal here. Okay. And this vocal here, just going to drop it in the same track for now.
I feel so free.
Yeah, and this one here.
I feel so free.
Cool. Okay, we're going to use this down lifter here. And maybe try that one as well. I'll just put them both on the same track for now.
Free.
Oh, I'm going to use this percussion loop. Just going to put it on the same track as the bongos for now. I think I'm going to grab this one as well. So I think that's all the samples I'm going to use for now. And let's start arranging this track. And to begin with, I'm going to extend the LoFi pad. I'm just going to Control-C to copy it. I'm just going to paste it all the way across. Let's just see. Yeah, let's just take it to there. That's just under 3 minutes in length. Maybe we'll just do one more. That'll take us to just over 3 minutes. And then set our end marker around here. Just going to save that. And I'm going to have an intro with just the LoFi pad and keep the bass out for the first possibly 8 bars or 4, we'll see. So I'm just going to copy this bass and paste it all the way across for now. Okay, so now that we have the LoFi pad and the bass extended, I'm going to just grab these drums and also copy and paste them across the track for now. Just fill out this whole thing. And also the kick pattern here, I'm just going to go all the way across. The progressive pluck here, I'm going to copy and paste that all the way. So I'm just going to mute these splice sounds for now. And then this part here, the melodies, I'm going to copy and paste them just all the way across for now. So I'd like to start with the shaker, I think, at the beginning of the track, just the shaker and the pad. So let's just rename this shaker here just to shaker, and I'm going to unmute that. So currently it is about 8 bars long. So let's just listen to that with the beginning part of the pad here. So I think I'll take out this kick drum here and just have the kick 3 one for now. Okay, so I think I'm going to wait for these to come in until later. So let's just pull all these out, and I'm going to go to bar 25 here. Just delete these and these two. Okay, and I just want that to come in once there, and then come back in here. Okay, so the LoFi pad will run most of the way through here. I think I'm going to kind of leave that as a drone in the background and use some automation to filter it and probably control the volume of it, the gain. I'll do that in a bit. Also with the bass here, I think I'm going to drop the bass out. Let's see, I'll come in for a couple bars and then drop out for a couple here. Then come back in with our main drop section here, and then drop out for a couple, and then finish with our main section here. So if this is our intro here, then this will be our first breakdown, then we'll have our first drop, and then we'll have our second breakdown leading into our final drop here and outro. So just before the drop, I want to take out this pad for a couple of bars, and we'll find something interesting to put in there. Also the drums here, I think I'm going to follow a similar sequence to this. So in the breakdown, I'm just going to pull out these drums and the kick. And then here I'm going to take out this section here. And also take out the kick drums, the kick 3 drums here. So let's have a listen to how that arrangement is starting to sound. So I'm going to take out these couple of these drum parts to begin with, since I want the intro to build up a little more. So here at the start, I don't want to have this hi-hat in here. I actually want this snare to be in here. So that'll sound like this. I also want the shaker to go a bit longer through this section. Then in this first drop, all the drums will be in, and also in the last drop as well. And we may modify these at some point later on, but for now I'm just going to leave them just with a simple laid back kind of a beat. So now that we have our intro, our breakdowns and our drops figured out, I'm just going to thin out some of these lead parts. So that's our basic arrangement for the track. Let's take a look at getting some of these sounds, percussions placed aside from the shaker. Let's just start with the shaker and continue with that. I think I'd like to bring it in possibly later, maybe throughout the last part of the track here. So we'll move to the shaker and do that next. Okay, so after a little more arranging, I have moved these samples around and created some automations and added some effects to them. So the block hit I've just used at the intro of the track here, and if I play it from here you can listen to it. So if I press F6 and go to the rack and take a look at the block hit here, and what I have on here is the lustrous plates reverb from Liquid Sonics that comes in the Slate Digital effects bundle. And I just have it on a percussive patch, chrome plate. And you can see the settings here for that. And then I have the Ripley space delay. I just have it on this default patch. And I've added a gain tool just so I can automate the gain of this track if I need to. The next track here is a riser, and I've just reversed it here to lead into the first drop, and then I have it here at the end of the second breakdown before the last drop, and then at the very end of the track just to finish it off. So that's the risers, and I'll just go to F6 and take a look and see if I've done any effects on that one. Yeah, so there's nothing on that at the moment. I may add some reverb to those later on when I come to mix it. Next up we have this vocal chop here. That sounds like this.
I feel so free.
That's the first one, and then the second one I just broke it up.
I feel so free.
And added a slightly different delay to it, and also repeated that at the end here. So I basically have the Ripley space delay on that with this patch here, and I am automating the output dry and wet in the track, and I've turned the ducker up. The next vocal part is this AA part. And then it comes in at the last drop. Yeah, so let's just go to the rack and see what I've done with these. So I've added a little bit of the SSL DigiCrush. So it just adds a little bit of grit to the sound. And then I'm using Infinity Horizon just to pull out some of the resonance in the vocal. And then the next vocal part is this wah part. So as you can see, it just appears 3 times here. And if I go to the rack and take a look at that, I have the Infinity EQ. And after that, I have the Ripley space delay again on this patch. The next is what I call hard percussion, and that is this percussion loop here. Just solo it. So let's take a look at F6 and see what that is doing. So hard percussion. So I have the lustrous plates again from Slate Digital beryllium plate. I have this 2B delayed classic. I'm just trying it out. I've never used this delay before. I have a gain tool, and as you can see, I have automation on the gain. And then I have the KHS filter, high pass this time. So that is the hard percussion. The conga slap sample here, I'll just solo that. So it has a slight pan to the right. So the conga slap here, we have the Ripley space delay again. Then I have a Infinity EQ again from Slate Digital. Again, I have a gain tool so I can automate the gain. You can see with the green box around it that automation is on. And then I have the kilohertz filter, the low pass filter, and the cutoff frequency will be automated. That's the conga slap. And next up we have the shaker. Let's just go right into that and see what I have on it. So again, I have lustrous plates from Slate Liquid Sonics, and then I have the Infinity EQ again, and again I have a gain tool with the gain being automated here. So that is the shaker. And the last percussion part was kind of interesting. The original sample is muted here, but I'll just solo it and you can hear what it sounded like originally. I was almost tempted to use it as is, as a filler in one of these breaks, but I thought, let's just do something with it. So I ended up taking a section of it. Let's just play this section here. And in fact, I'll just solo it so you can hear it because it's quite quiet. So what I did with this, I'm just going to go to that track and turn the volume up a bit more here. And I'm going to reverse this. So I took that part and then I reversed it. So that made up the rest of these. And then on the device itself, I have a channel EQ with a high pass and a low pass on it, narrowing the frequency band quite a bit. Then I have this DigiCrush on it, just to give it a kind of a lo-fi quality. And then after that, we have the Verb Suite Classics here. And then after that, I have a Ripley space delay with the 1:2, kind of a bouncing echo delay. Then I have a compressor, the kilohertz compressor, give it some compression, and then I have the filter, which I will automate. Again, it's a high pass, so you'll see that working later. So that's this sound here, and in the mix it sounds like this. But further back.
I feel so free.
So as you can see, I've arranged the percussion. I have these vocals at the front and the back here. These ones in the middle. The percussions at different points, and I've extended the shaker out through both drops and also this conga slap. The shaker is also panned slightly left to match the conga on the right hand side. And then we have these other vocal chops up here, and the risers, and then this block hit right here. Yeah, so aside from the arrangement here, I also have a bunch of automations, mostly filtering and volume automations on many of the tracks. I will be bouncing down these drums to audio at some point here, and any other MIDI tracks before I mix them. I have this automation on the delay here on this vocal, and a few other automations throughout the track. If you're interested in learning more about the automations, more in depth on those, let me know in the comments. So please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.